the difference between being nice to employees and building culture, because those are two totally separate things. Just because you're nice to someone and you buy them pizza, those things are nice, but that's not what builds culture. Great cultures, the best are built by design, but most are built by default. There's all kinds of little things you can do that say, wow, this place feels different than that other place down the street that's offering another dollar per hour more.
I'm a huge believer in modeling. Tony Robbins talks about it, which is you find someone who's doing something in a way that seems to be effective or working. You find the most effective strategy, and then essentially you copy it or you make it your own. Call it modeling, right? So what are you seeing are some of the characteristics of the owners who create high performing teams?
So it's a great question, and I dove deep into that in this book. Just like the wealthy franchisee, I went out and I met all these top franchisees from a variety of brands, and I spent time with them and I interviewed them and profiled all of them, and I really looked for the common denominator among them, and I get into that in that book. And I do the same thing in this book. I mean, I really spent a lot of time getting to know these people. What's interesting is they sounded, a number of them are franchisees, but some of them are, running factories, or some, the independent dry cleaner. It's not really just a franchise book by any means, but they all sound like wealthy franchisees. They understand the human side and they make it a priority. So they understand the difference between being nice to employees and building culture, because those are two totally separate things. Just because you're nice to someone and you buy them pizza, I'm so tired of hearing about pizza and gift cards and celebrating birthdays. Those things are nice, but that's not what builds culture, right? The military doesn't create that unit cohesion because the drill sergeant buys everyone pizza. Like, that's not what creates culture. So they're really big at creating culture. They're also
What does create culture, Scott?
Okay. How long is this podcast going to be? That's a huge thing. I have a whole section of the book about that, but I'll share some really big ideas for that. What think about what is culture. By the way, any group of two or more people has a culture, whether they realize it or not. Culture isn't a nice relationship. Culture is a combination of two things. It's the shared beliefs among people, and then it's the behaviors that they share. It's their social interaction. It's the social norms of relationships. Okay. So if every time I see you, you and I are high-fiving, and the first thing we do is we share a story, and if you sneeze and I say bless you, and we just have our ways of doing things, those are our rituals, that's our culture. If every time we see each other, we give each other, dirty looks, that kind of thing, or we insult each other, that is also part of our culture, right? If we're neighbors and every 4th of July we go outside and we barbecue together, that's kind of part of it. It's like, what are the social norms? How do we greet each other? How do we resolve conflict? Right? What are we working towards? Okay. So, for example, I used to be a bellman at a hotel. I was one of the original bellmen. They taught us how to be bellmen, but they didn't do anything to facilitate healthy relationships. So the culture just became what it became, which was, we bellmen, we compete to see who gets to greet that Mercedes pulling up first. That's probably going to be a big tipper, right? We were very tip focused instead of very guest focused, because that's just, what it became. So what's normal in some environments is for there to be cliques. In other environments, it's absolute love and cohesion. So great cultures, the best are built by design, but most are built by default. So to answer your question, so first of all, so what culture is the social norms of a group. So what all these great environments do is they're very deliberate when they onboard employees. First, they hire for culture, for cultural match. They teach them their values, their mission, and not with grand abstract concepts. We're here to change the world. Like, if you say that to someone who's working at a frozen yogurt shop, there's going to be a disconnect. It's too big. It's too abstract. Doesn't connect their work they're doing. So they bring culture down to earth. They discuss what it means. They say, hey, when you come to our work environment, this is how we behave. This is what we do to take care of each other. So they discuss it, and then they have rituals that reinforce it. And it might be a pre-shift meeting, right? It might be all kinds of little things that this is our way of doing things that you're not going to get over there. So I get into it with the book about, even small things like you don't issue uniforms, you give them swag. take that same uniform, fold it up nice, put it in a gift bag, and make a little ceremony out of presenting it to a new employee, right? There's all kinds of little things you can do that say, wow, this place feels different than that other place down the street that's offering another $1 per hour more. So it's being very deliberate about having a common set of beliefs and then rituals that reinforce those beliefs. So I don't know if that answers, I have so much more to say, but we don't have enough time here.
If you enjoyed this short clip from the podcast, you can check out another short clip right here. Or if you want to watch the full episode of this podcast, you can watch that here. And remember, knowledge is not power. It's applied knowledge that's power. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.